Peace, peace, peace. Shalom, shalom. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. And welcome to another day to labor in the vineyard of the Most High. With your brother. Another day to get in the word to see what the Most High got to serve. And what we eating on today, we gonna get a better understanding of our evolution down here. The Mazzaroth, also known as the Zodiac, is a key part of our evolution. Alright? And how eventually we got to come out of that cycle as we grow. Our goal is to keep growing so that we get out of that karmic cycle of rebirth that sends us around through the Zodiac in different incarnations to purify our spirit man. Alright? So we're going into the keys. The book of knowledge. The keys of Enoch. And we gonna start in key 307, page 403. I'm gonna read the header. In the universe to come, all will give account of the way they use their energies of love within their space and time. The universe is like a wise man who called before the throne of his creative wisdom all the visual scenarios of his past life. There, where all the flowing energies of his membrane were called and redispatched, he called into himself those living pictures which were fitted to his membrane in love and creative energy towards the continuation of his life. Membrane of glory within a membrane of glory. Those, however, which were in the image of destruction, also known as the image of the beast, and wickedness, he cast out, lest a membrane of hate contaminate a membrane of love in the next ordering of evolution. So also it is with the balance of life in our consciousness time zone. Man receives commands, powers, voices, and lights like fire, so that man may understand our field of life as a visual scenario of the higher evolution, as above, so below. For man has been extended across space and clothed into the membrane of his own time from the throne energies. Alright? Man is a membrane within creation. Alright? In his own time, remember the last lesson, we went into the consciousness time zones. Alright? Like you said right here, man has been extended across space and clothed into the membrane of his own time. Down here in the flesh, in our time of probation. And in the last lesson, we seen how our consciousness time zone that we are in, we are supposed to expand it so that we can cross over into the frequency of our brothers and sisters on the other side of the veil. But due to the abomination of desolation, which is the religions and the carnal teachings that come along with it, we haven't been able to expand our consciousness time zone until now. Now that we done came up out of all of the religions and their doctrines that was keeping us bound. Alright? So let's eat. Starting at verse 1. Man is one level of intelligence occupying space within visual scenarios created by higher orders of evolution. And we seen in the last lesson how the Elohim set all of this up. Space is that part of the larger circuit diagram through which the evolutionary wavelength remakes itself as the replication of the image of the throne. And that's tying into how the earth is going through her remolding process so that she can get remade into a celestial kingdom, which will put her in alignment with the Father universes, aka what we see right here, the image of the throne. This key explains that time does not exist. Time does not exist, but only is within the consciousness dimension of the species in its form of evolution. Time only exists for us, the membranes down here, going through their evolution. All right? But once we get back to our Adam Cadmon light body, our pre-existent body of light, time don't exist no more. All right? The whole light beings, time don't exist for them. The past, present, and future are all together. All right? We seen in the last lesson how the time is a difference between us down here in this realm, this dimension, versus them on the other side of the veil. All right? That's how they able to tell us what's gonna happen in the past, what's gonna come to pass, and what's gonna be the outcome in the far future. That's how our scriptures was given through spirits on the other side of the veil. All right? And that's why only spiritual people can understand how it was put together. It was given from the other side of the veil, from a spirit, unto a receptive individual on this side, and they was told to write it down. So that as we grew in time, we will be cognitive of what's going to happen. Or the spiritual ones will be able to see what's going to happen as they grew. All right? So again, this key explains that time does not exist, but only is within the consciousness dimension of the species and its form of evolution, going through its time of probation. Man, in transcending his consciousness dimension, man, in transcending his consciousness dimension, will understand that both space and time do not really exist, but are only a series of dots mirroring his consciousness. Mirroring his consciousness. So as our consciousness expands, so does our world, which is beyond beginning and end. Our universe expands as our consciousness expands. And that's what we were saying in the last lesson when it was talking about us coming up out of this consciousness time zone that we in. But the only way to do it is through consciousness expansion. 4. Once man has evolved into the next consciousness dimension, he, like Jacob, can go up the galactic ladder, lattice, unto other space and time fields of the collab, which is the central sun system. And remember, whatever you acquire in this lifetime goes with you. Hold on. Let's get a precept here. Go to Doctrine and Covenants. Doctrine and Covenants 130, verse 18. Whatever principle of intelligence, whichever level of consciousness we attain unto in this life, it will rise with us in the resurrection. And if a person gains more knowledge and intelligence in this life through his diligence and obedience than another, he will have so much more the advantage in the world to come. Alright, so each lifetime we build, and when we awaken the next lifetime, we add on to where we was at. So once man has evolved into the next consciousness dimension, he, like Jacob, can go up the galactic lattice into other space and time fields of the collab, the central sun system. Alright, we're gonna get to travel like on Star Wars and Star Trek. The key of Enoch, this key of Enoch, then, is explaining that Shekinah universes on molecular levels are processing the thought forms of the higher lords who come from the thrones of creative wisdom to create and evolve the mortal worlds, even to take on the form of physical materialization. Precept. Let's go to page 153. Page 153. Starting at verse 45. Ultimately, the great white brotherhood carries the light of the righteous out of the zones of destruction. For the brotherhoods are the receivers of the light, whereby they purify civilizations and carry their light into the treasury of light. The people of God have now petitioned the Father, Son, and Shekinah universes. Remember, the Father universes operate on the spiritual realm. The Son universes are going through their time of probation. The Shekinah universes is the spirit within creation. Alright? So all three have to be in alignment. Us going through our time of probation on this Sun universe, trying to evolve, we get to work with those coming from the Father universes, which are on the other side of the veil, the Lords of Light, the Elohim, the Paradise Sons in them. But we got to learn to listen to the Shekinah universe, which is the spirits within creation. And when we align all of them, then let's keep going now. I just wanted to show an example of the Father, Son, and Shekinah universes being balanced, because that's what it's speaking on. The people of God have now petitioned the Father, Son, and Shekinah universes to restore perfect balance. All three have to be in alignment. That's why we got to learn to hear the Spirit, so that we can know how to operate on this Sun universe, and then we can work in alignment with the spirits on the other side of the veil who are connected with the Father universes. And it restores a balance to where now we can align and transform the earth. When the Father, Son, and Shekinah universes of light can balance a consciousness time zone, the matter energy bodies in each time cell. Pause. Let's get the definition of time cell. Let's get the definition of time cell. Time cell, an arbitrary unit of time measurement used for experimentation with several life forms, all with their own time coding and biological track different from one another. Alright? Time is different for different entities on the earth. Again, when the Father, Son, and Shekinah universes of light can balance a consciousness time zone, the matter energy bodies in each time cell can acquire consciousness freedom. Alright, and the matter energy bodies is just speaking on the carnal creations, the physical beings within creation. Matter energy, because that's what we are. Alright, we're matter, the flesh is matter, but the energy is the spirit within that gives it life. All right, so the matter energy bodies in each time cell can acquire consciousness freedom. Because right now, we in consciousness bondage. We're working to get towards consciousness freedom. And the qualification to work with the great white brotherhood, our brothers and sisters on the other side of the veil. When this happens, a species becomes a super species creation, which can freely circumnavigate between star systems, like on Star Trek, and not be locked into a given consciousness, time, space. Alright? Now, back to where we was at. Back to page 404. Alright? Verse 6. This physical materialization is merely a form which is extended across space and is more clearly called a membrane within time. The physical body of the higher lords of light is just the appearance form of the light body, which still exists within its greater form and power. This appearance form is the lowest form of the image and similitude. All right, the light body is the lowest form of the image and similitude. Yet, the image and similitude is the only blueprint of the life force which man can use to work with the master control in the councils of light. Man, by virtue of this incarnation, has the ability to ascend into the master's image. Man, by virtue of this incarnation, has the ability to ascend into the master's image, just as Jesus, Yahshua, received the Christ power, just as Yahshua, Yehoshua, Yeshaya received the Christ power before the eyes of man as his true higher identity. All right? Jesus received the powers of the Christ. All right? That's when the dove came down upon him. All right, so it's important to realize that the brother's name was not Jesus Christ. He was just a Christ, one of many Christ that was sent. I get a precept. The sealed portion, chapter 4, verse 19. But I have been commanded to reveal this mystery unto those of you who shall receive these things, even this knowledge that there are many earths like unto the one where we reside, and there are many gods, and many Christs, many anointed ones that pertain unto these worlds. And these gods and these Christs are the creators and leaders of these worlds. All right? So, don't fall for the idolatry that the Gentiles have set up for us to worship Yahshua as the only anointed one. All right? He was one of many that's been sent throughout the UNI verses. All right? Don't fall for the idolatry that the Gentiles have set up, because we showed in a lesson maybe a couple months ago that we did on Elisha and Elijah, also known as Jesus and John. John and Jesus. And the previous incarnations was Elisha and Elijah. All right? He had to go through the same process that we was going through before he received the Christ power that we just read about. All right? He had to get built up over different incarnations. That's the only way he's able to tell us how to do it, is for him to have to walk the walk to receive the power to be able to talk the talk. And that's the same process that we're going through. And it explained that in the sealed portion. But let's keep eating. Verse 24. Yahshua, one manifestation of the office of the Christ. Let's get the definition for office of the Christ for those who don't know. And this Christ, let's read. Office of the Christ, the redemptive office of divine light. Because when it's referring to Christ right here, it's talking about the consciousness. All right, the office of the higher self, the office of the Christ consciousness, the redemptive office of divine light, encompassing the work of the 144,000 ascended masters, working with Yahweh or Yahweh and Michael through the Christ for the purification of this fallen universe. All right, so they're working through the Christ consciousness for the purification of this fallen universe. This includes all of the ascended masters who work for the liberation of humanity throughout the world in all eons of time. In all eons of time. So like I said, Krishna came working for the office of the Christ. So did the Buddha. So did Quetzalcoatl. And many others. Thoth, Enoch, they all came in different eons of time working for the office of the Christ. Working for the redemptive office of the divine light. Let's get the definition of Christ. Let's get the definition of Christ. Christ, Ho Christos, as the anointed one, the Father's Son who begins, realizes, and consummates the divine plan of the Father in the worlds of the Adam Kadmon. In terms of the physical universe of eternity, the Christ is the redemptive vehicle. The Christ, which is Christ consciousness, is the redemptive vehicle used to make God's children partners in the anointed sonship of light, fully capable of spiritual work in the Father's mansion worlds of higher intelligence. For those affected by the fall, the Christ comes to restore the image and similitude that was lost. That's what we read about Osiris, Asa. That's what he was sent to do, to restore that image and similitude. And he did that in Kemet, which is the same thing that Thoth was working to do at that time. All right? Same thing Krishna was doing on the other side over there. Quetzalcoatl, when he was sent over here, that's what he came to do. There were many ones sent to restore the image and similitude that was lost, and to open the threshold gates to the actual garment of light that man is to put on if he is to attain the level of the original Adam Kadmon. Through the incarnate Christ, we assume a new relationship to the Father. Through the incarnate Christ, through the incarnated anointed one that was sent, we assume a new relationship to the Father. By being brothers and sisters of the Son, we are sons and daughters of the Father. All right? Again, by being brothers and sisters of the higher self, the Christ consciousness, which is the Son of the supreme consciousness, we are sons and daughters of the Father. And as much as God makes his home in us through the Spirit, we mount to the dignity of sonship, having the Son himself in us. That higher consciousness, that Christ consciousness, not Jesus, You can hide Jesus inside of you as much as you want to. That's not going to bring you to the level of Christ consciousness. It's the teachings that he gave that will formulate your consciousness to elevate you. All right? That's what it's speaking on when it's saying having the Son himself in us. It's that higher consciousness. It's the teachings that he gave that upgrades our consciousness and expands our consciousness time zone. It's not talking about having Jesus in your heart. To whom we are refashioned in his spirit. Back to page 24. Back to page 405. Jesus, Yahshua, one manifestation of the office of the Christ in the outer realms, revealed to the human as of the root of David, is this greater light, which has penetrated the openings in the skies made by Judah. All right, and what we're about to see is the celestials, the constellations above us are tied to the 12 tribes. All right, and like I said, he came in through the opening. He came incarnated through the opening in the skies made by Judah, inviting man to go beyond the astronomy of a physical sun, which is the lion, into the sonship of the collective messiahship. All right, the collective messiahship. All right, let's precept. Let's precept. Page 230. Page 230. Because above us, in the heavens above, are the 12 tribes. Page 230, verse 29. Pyramidologists had known that the families, the tribes of the house of Israel, given in the book of Numbers, chapters 1 and 2, give the angular proportions of the 360-degree circle or rotation of the heavens. Thus, the angular proportions of the circle of the heavens were coded in the numerical family blocks, the numerical tribal blocks of the book of Numbers as. All right, and right here, this chart is showing each of the tribes, their population, and their angle within the rotation of the heavens. All right, so if you go through this chapter and if you good with math or understand math and science, then it'll make a little sense to you. But if not, just know that it's talking about the rotation of the zodiac in the sky. That's what these 12 tribes is composed of. And like they were saying, he incarnated through Judah. Alright, let's keep going and see how the Mazzaroth tied to us in the flesh. Page 65. Page 65. Verse 44. The ascended masters are governed by the councils of light and connect the light workers serving the Mazzaroth. Again, the ascended masters are governed by the councils of light and they connect the light workers serving the Mazzaroth, the worlds of the lower heavens, revolving within the star regions of the Zodiac. Pause. Let's go to page 553. Page 553. Verse 94. The Father showed me how there were 12 galactic tribes. There were 12 galactic tribes of Israel, created to walk upon the face of the earth in direct relationship to Jehovah's glory. Again, the Father showed me how there were 12 galactic tribes of Israel, created to walk upon the face of the earth in direct relationship to Jaja's glory. And I saw how this people, known as the Hebrews, that is, those on the other side of the galactic river of life. Now, you know how the camps teach us that the word Hebrew just meant those that crossed over. Those that crossed over. They partially correct. They just missing the spiritual aspect of it. All right? It's saying it means those on the other side of the galactic river of life. Meaning those of us on the other side of the veil. Those of us in the flesh. Were to be different from the other people of the earth who were satisfied with the body and the soul. Meaning they were satisfied with carnality. Which that's what Esau represents. And this, Esau is not talking about the white man. It's talking about the carnal children. The people of Israel had their body and soul exposed to a spiritual outpouring of light, which was to bring forth a continual illumination of the Father's direct teaching and love for all people of the earth. That's why Jesus taught that we are to be a light unto the Gentiles. All right? Because there is spiritual seeds within each nation. But us, being the Hebrews sent on the other side of this galactic river that know where we come from and know our mission on where we supposed to make it back to, we supposed to disseminate the light so that we can find our other star seeds that ain't got disseminated into these other nations, which all of the nations come from the original nation. Back to page 65. So again, the ascending masters are governed by the councils of light and connect the light workers, Israel, the program Israel, the star seeds, the light workers, serving the Mazzaroth on the other side of the veil, the worlds of the lower heavens revolving within the star regions of the Zodiacs, with complex worlds of multiple suns in the higher heavens, known as the Mazzaroth worlds. The Mazzaroth worlds are the complex worlds with multiple suns. All right, and as we leave out of the Mazzaroth, we open ourselves up to go to the Mazzaroth. Page 174. Let's keep precepting. 174, verse 35. The Mazzaroth allows for the development of a new species. All right, so it was set up. Each new species had to go through the Zodiac down here in the lower heavens on whichever earth they are upon. The Mazzaroth allows for the development of a new species containing 12 biochemical meridians. Once this is completed, the species form will go beyond this series of connections into a new network containing supergalactic clusters known as the Mazzaroth. Enoch told me that the next local Mazzaroth begins at 1.5 to 2 million light years from here. Page 123. Let's keep precepting. Page 123. Starting at verse 5. Therefore, the people of God, the children of light, must prepare themselves to take the Exodus and to assimilate the power that the higher evolution gives to man. It is this power which controls the light threshold grids of energy used to come into and leave our physical dimension. That's why we have to expand our consciousness. This is done by opening 12 faces of the Zodiac, the Mazzaroth, by the higher grids of modulated energy. Consequently, the human creation will find the 12 meridians within the body, within the earth, and of the Mazzaroth, all interconnected with new thresholds, which are the greater measuring focus for the redemption being prepared for man by the brotherhoods. All right. Back to page 405. All right. And just start at verse 24 again. Yahshua, one manifestation of the office of the Christ in the outer realms, revealed to the human as of the root of David, is this greater light, which has penetrated the opening in the skies made by Judah, inviting man to go beyond the astronomy of a physical sun, the lion, into the sonship of the collective Messiah. The lion is Christ incarnate, the greater lion of the higher heavens, which has conquered the heavens and fully opened the gates for all mankind. Alright? So Yahshua came to open the gates, to teach us how to get out. Now go to page 170. Page 170, starting at verse 11. After the completion of the program historically known as Israel. Remember last lesson we showed, or we was talking about how Israel is a program. We actually did a whole lesson on how Israel is a program. But right here, we gonna get that understanding. 11. After the completion of the program historically known as Israel, which means in the original Hebrew scrolls, the consciousness of light, which contends with the higher mind until victory. There will be a consciousness reprogramming of mankind on this planet in the region originally identified with Atlantis. The program Israel is one of many, one of many within the infinite way, which intersects with many different levels of intelligence. At the culmination of the Father's plan for Israel, a new program victory will signal the gathering of the tribes of the spiritual Israel, the spiritual lights. The 12 consciousness dimensions of spiritual man will receive their central reprogramming in the original land of the Ancient of Days. This is the sacred land of the West. Another reason the Gentiles tell you leave and take your handpots back to Africa. They trying to get you off of the sacred land because they know what's coming to the sacred land. The 12 consciousness dimensions of spiritual man will receive their central reprogramming in the original land of the Ancient of Days. This is the sacred land of the West, which is the region of the original grids used by the masters of Yahweh or Yahweh. Upon this grid, a new crystallization will be created as the cycles of the east and west combine to receive the living light of the Christ consciousness reigning upon the planet through the brotherhood of light, because they helping to upgrade the consciousness of the spiritual children. All right, that's what we didn't show through the majority of all the lessons, that those on the other side work with the children that can hear the voice of the Spirit to upgrade them so that they can be the lights down here that they were designed to be. 16. Thus, the program Israel will become the new plan of victory, which will allow the intelligence of this planet to freely move upon other planets, and at the same time invite other planetary intelligence to commune with this planet. All right, and that's speaking on the transforming of the earth. Before the new story of creation happens, this is what's going on right here. Before the new story of creation happens, the earth will go through gross geomagnetic and catastrophic changes as the magnetic regions of the North and South Pole release their torque, spinning the shell of the earth into new programs of existence. During the completion of cycles of star progression, our entire solar system will enter into a vacuum in space where no electromagnetic field exists. This is called an electromagnetic null zone. An electromagnetic null zone. Hold on, listen. Electromagnetic null zone. The definition just says an energy vacuum where there is an absence of electromagnetic fields. During the completion of cycles of star progression, our entire solar system will enter into a vacuum in space where no electromagnetic fields exist. This is called an electromagnetic null zone. At that time, cosmic waves will enter the polar areas of our Earth and penetrate to the very core of our globe. These waves will not only release some 48.6 times 10 to the 15th ton miles of torque on the Earth, but will trigger unseen wave properties from the core of the Earth, placing catastrophic stress on the shell of the Earth and spinning the mantle of the Earth. All right, and this is the pole shift that you keep hearing people speak about that's going on now. The world should fulfill the cycle of realms prophesied as she enters into a new meridian of time. The coming together of hidden scientific prophecy of the 9 oracles will confirm the changing of the polar regions. After this purification, the potential omega is set within new spherical surface harmonies, and the wonderful recreation of the world is allowed to proceed into a new cycle of husbandry. There is now occurring the fulfillment of ancient spiritual and scientific prophecy through the 64 keys of Enoch, the revelation breaking the 7 seals on the book of Revelation, as well as explaining how the brotherhoods of light will work with members of the human race who can accept the promise of new life in the myriad other universes. The keys of Enoch show how all levels of science, from the biophysical to the astrophysical foundations, will take a quantum leap in recognizing the superior intelligences serving the brotherhoods who serve the infinite mind. We are now witnessing the coming together of scientific evolution and consciousness as both unite into the consciousness of the living light. That's why the keys is so heavy with all the science. It's uniting the science with the consciousness. Spiritual science. The energy used by the infinite mind, the infinite creation, and the infinite species. The living light will be understood in the code. I am that I am. Ahaya, Asher Ahaya, as the consciousness of light of one star creation is attached to the I am consciousness of the higher evolution, forming the I am that I am. Again, the living light will be understood in the code I am that I am, as the consciousness of light of one star creation is attached to the I am consciousness of the higher evolution, forming the I am that I am. For behold, the field is white and ready for harvest. And when you give your life to the harvesting of this planetary station, a greater ionization becomes your body. And your new body of light is connected with the galactic thresholds of the house of many mansions, which is the deliverance of all manner of flesh. In this unification of I am to I am, as above so below, the lower I am to the higher I am, the star seed back connected with the living light. The higher evolution through the spiritual hierarchies begins new evolutionary cycles. And at the end of this cycle, the collective messiahs of Moses, Jesus, and Elijah as the paradise trinity of the Christ will return with Uriel. Let's get the definition here of that trinity of Moses, Yahshua, and Elijah. All right, remember, like we seen in the lesson, Elisha was Yahshua in the previous incarnation, as Elijah was the teacher of Elisha. So when he came back as Elijah, as John, Yahshua coming back from his incarnation as Elisha, as Yahshua said, there's none greater. All right, we explained all that in that lesson. That lesson gave some good spiritual understanding and discernment on how we are to grow through these different incarnations. All right, and how teachers are sent to elevate us through different incarnations. Moses was a teacher to all of Israel in the beginning through the Torah. He was the teacher that was sent. And then Jesus came back later on as a teacher towards the end. Trinity, the paradise, Moses, Yahshua, and Elijah in our sun universe. It is first activated by the association of the supreme ultimate will of the divine mind as Father. When this partnership forms, it brings the unfoldment of God, the absolute, down through the wisdom exemplified in Moses, the word exemplified in Yehoshua, and the vehicle of light exemplified in Elijah. Because remember, Elijah didn't die. He just left. This factualizes the sonship of the Father, so as to make us share in the triumph of creation as glorified whole light beings who are merged into Yahshua, Moshe, and Elijah, as the three are merged into the anointed office of eternal sonship. Eternal sonship. Eternal sons of the Most High. All right, back to page 173. In this unification of I am to I am, the higher evolution, the higher evolution through the spiritual hierarchies begins new evolutionary cycles. And at the end of this cycle, the collective messiahs, Moses, Joshua, and Elijah, as the paradise trinity of the Christ, will return with Uriel, the creator of the inner light, Metatron, the creator of the outer light, and Michael, the creator of this local galactic universe, as a demonstration of the return of the programmers of the Father's will, in gathering the remaining righteous on this earth who will be graduated to go on to other life-like worlds. And it will occur after the wars between the sons of light versus the sons of darkness, that a new age will occur for all mankind, surviving the great changes among all of the vicissitudes on this planet. Those, however, who will not choose to be chosen in taking the higher spiral of light instead of the lower spiral of decay and entropy, will not receive final destruction, but a return to the beginnings of meta-matter and primeval earth. Let's get the definition of earth. All right, and we don't want the first one to just tell us that this is the planet we own. The second one, earth, meaning the consciousness of terrestrials on a physical life station, as opposed to extraterrestrials who can freely circumnavigate. When hyphenated with another word, earthbound or 3D consciousness, meaning carnality, or you going back through your time of probation on another earth-like station. All right? That's all it's saying. This will begin the next cycle of recreation as the righteous are advanced to the next ordering of evolution within the next consciousness time cell as co-citizens and co-participants in myriads of dimensions of the universal mind of Yahweh behind all creator gods. Now let's go back to the sealed portion. Close it off with another precept out the sealed portion that tied to what we just read about those who chose not to be chosen, that have to come back on another earth-like planet to start over their time of probation. Chapter 93, starting at page 75. Verse 75. This is page 543. And now, my beloved brothers and sisters, here is the end of those who choose for themselves not to serve the Creator who created them and gave them life and an independent existence wherein they might find happiness. Behold, these who were created from the eternal elements of which all things are created, yea, from which all of our spirits were created, shall be broken apart or destroyed in the form of the existence in which the Father had created them to bring them happiness. And they shall be no more, and the matter from which they were created cannot be destroyed. And the matter from which they were created cannot be destroyed. And even if it could be destroyed, the Father would not destroy it because of his love for that which had brought him so much joy. But Lucifer and those that follow him shall cease to exist, and the elements from which their spirits were formed shall be used to form other spirits that shall start their existence in the womb of an eternal mother. And this is what you see on the movie Soul. All the eternal mothers up there playing with the spirit children. Alright? Who shall wean them and coddle them and enjoy their birth again into existence by the power and will of the Father. And these shall grow into mature spirits and be given the opportunity to follow the plan of the Father and receive the happiness for which He had created them. Now this is according to the great mercy and justice of the Father. For He knows that there cannot exist those beings in the eternities in the celestial kingdoms that would disrupt the order of all things. And this order have existed forever, having no beginning and no end. And it is the duty of any God to maintain this order. And it is the duty of any God. Is it not written in your law that ye are gods? To maintain this order. And in justice establish the laws of this order and ensure that these laws are followed in righteousness. But the Father knoweth that in order for us to follow any law in righteousness, we must first understand this law. And to understand this law in its fullness, we must be given the chance to disobey this law and reap the consequences of our disobedience. And this will happen to Israel as a whole. That we might know of our own experience that the eternal laws of heaven are indeed righteous. And this, my brothers and sisters, is the purpose of life and the reason that we exist in a mortal state and go through the days of our probation. Boom. So now we done answer some more questions and bring some more clarity to why we here, why the Zodiac is set up, and how we had to go through it to learn lessons spiritually, to get elevated. But without the understanding of reincarnation, none of it don't make sense. All right? But it's to bring us closer to crossing over the veil to be able to work with the brothers and sisters on the other side of the veil. That's going to encode our consciousness and help elevate us, to expand us out of this consciousness time zone that we've been trapped in by the fallen masters, so that we can receive our light body as the earth is going through its changes. All right? So that we can help usher in this kingdom. All right? So let's keep eating and growing and expanding our light so that we can expand the collective consciousness, so that we can be that light unto the nations that we were sent to be, and to our brothers and sisters that stuck in carnality due to the abomination of desolation and them carnal teachings. All right, peace.